cops killing young black men. I mean, what an absurd narrative. When the real violence on the streets of America today is these miscreants and these THUGS running around with automatic weapons, firing them aimlessly out of automobiles at their gang rivals and stuff like that. You don't have any engagement with that problem. Instead, you convert it into white domination problem. That's the kind of truth that a black president needed to pull the covers off of. And Obama was as far away from doing that as you could possibly be.
Young Buck on his album, he has a song on his album that talks about police terrorism. The label said absolutely not. Jimmy Iovine said absolutely not. You cannot put that record on the album because it might create an atmosphere that might put police officers' lives in danger. Right. So they took the record off, but they let him keep the other 14 songs on the album that talked about killing black youth. Right now, we're feeding the prison industrial complex right now. Our kids are going to prison because they're promoting these records. They're promoting these records daily that send us to jail. Now, I mean, it's cool to go to jail. Now, I mean, they glorifying these things.
Yo, we were supposed to give some presentation on somebody named Gary A. Morgan. He was an inventor, and if he was with us today, he probably made something about stopping violence.
Word, don't waste your life on killing your brother, G, because we got a lot to live for, and we are brothers.
We, as Bloods and Crips in these prisons, yards, we don't need gangbang against each other. So if we don't gangbang against each other in these prison yards, why is it that we continue to let that stuff go on in the streets?
If it's love, I want everything. Touch my soul, touch my heart, don't judge my mental. They told me that life is simple, been real since Papa Pimple. I started out in the Renault Sonata, the presidential. Speak once and listen twice. They told me that less is simple.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by. We need a reset TV. This is your host Gravitating Away, and I cannot wait to break down this video. I won't take much of your time, but I guarantee you I will bring you clarity into the mind of why a lot of this nonsense that perpetuates in our community continues. So while I was trying to be a great father and enjoying, a couple of my children's graduating from different grade levels, etc., I've been gone, handling my business as a father, as a proactive black man in this community, really trying to do what we got to do to elevate, right? So last week, I wouldn't even say last week, 5 days ago, I made a video on the Grits and Eggs podcast host making statements kind of obvious that it's black men who basically are in this false narrative that they're pushing that they're in a war with black women. Whether I agree or not, my video was about how everything always circles back to how it's black men's fault. And I remember being so angry about a lot of things that I go through at the hand of, black men, etc. And you just unjustifiably, you point out of anger, emotions. And that was me as a young man. As you get older and you realize what a lot of black men go through, you hold them accountable. But at the same rate, you understand the nuances that surrounding a lot of the circumstances. I try to be a fair man. But the Grits and Eggs podcast host, I felt like he was pandering. Not just me. A lot of people felt like he was pandering. And I feel like our black women are so emotionally invested in a black male savior complex, right? Where no matter how detrimental their behaviors can be, no matter how detrimental the optics is about them, they'll rock for a Derek Jackson, etc. The guys that basically play on them. And I just felt, maybe not this guy's entire content, but most of the subject matter he was speaking on, dealing with black men pushing a narrative that black women are in a war with them. His conclusion was basically black men are false in this, right? I don't care if I agree with it or not. I just could see a pandering angle. Now, I want to digress into what happened during that video. So during my video, I wanted to bring you guys into the scope of how a lot of these guys who do pander, they actually come from a good ilk in terms of great orators. They have great points about different subject matters. The Grits and Eggs podcast has a lot of great points about a lot of different subjects involving a lot of different videos. That specific video was just something I wanted to touch upon because I know how the angle is. This, guy apparently got the attention of a lot of black folks, especially black men, about a lot of things he was talking about. And, you know, lately he dove into the foray of blaming a black man, you know, just putting the blame on us. But I put out a video. It was a short from him talking about gang culture. And in a nutshell, he was excusing the elements that surround gang culture and why it happens. Oh, there's BS, right? This is the same guy that's talking about elevation and black women evolving as a whole. You know, if black men, we as a whole, you know, essentially help raise the black women we raise with them. Yet in the other side of the argument, this guy is basically justifying gang culture. So I have people who comment in my videos every now and then, and I wanted to share that comment. But first, let me play that video that I thought was inexcusable that the host from the Grits and Eggs podcast made about gang culture. Let's check this out and we'll be back.
We have a certain idea about what LA is and like what gangbanging is, and we just think niggas is walking around being demons all day, every day. And it removes the humanity of it from them. Like, these niggas got mamas, they got people they love, they be in relationships. They, even though they homies and them be doing dirtball shit, they friends. And this is the hand they was dealt. It's just the environment. If you grew up there, you would acclimate yourself to that as well. But it's good to see, the most fascinating thing about it is, you know, to see, like, he got this thing called The Apple in the Tree, where it's his mom telling the story about how she used to carry a pistol in church while she was singing in the choir. She a gang member. His father, a gang member. So it's like, what other path could he have taken?
Could you imagine?
What other path could he have taken?
Could you imagine?
So if you can decipher, if you have intelligence, on one hand, you can see that this man clearly wants to show a side of gang culture about why it's happening. And I get that. But on the other side, especially as somebody that's in the forefront in my youth advocacy, and any of you that, whether you're in youth advocacy or not, whether you're about cleaning up your neighborhoods, I know most of you guys are tired about the degeneracy that goes on in our community, whether you admit to it or not. But we've been hearing about why drug culture persists, why gang culture persists, why all the bullshit that goes on in our community persists, but I never see a bulk of folks, black folks that is, right, focusing on the solutions. The solutions is real heavy. My words is heavy. I hope y'all can hold y'all's, but the solutions mean not so much so sitting on the why. We can trauma bond about the why. We can do all of that. But if you don't navigate towards the solution, I'm sorry, you or yet another person telling me why gang culture or whatever bullshit in our community that's continuing to destroy us persists means absolutely nothing. And I do believe this, it sets us back. So a gentleman commented on, he didn't even worry about the majority of the video that I was speaking on about the host pandering to black women. He wanted to point out about my take on the whole gang culture narrative that the host was justifying. And this is his comment. How did you record and edit a 16-minute video without thinking once? Laughing emoji. Of course, you know, because all of this is funny to a lot of y'all. He definitely didn't justify gang culture. He said humanize and try to understand how people end up living that life and how is trying to humanize a life. And I'm guessing he means that, but he puts that mostly black men live. It's somehow talking down on y'all. Number one, brother, it is so important we take our time and not be emotional, because clearly the typos and the grammar issues with your post is somewhat appalling, but I ain't no professor, so I'll give you grace on that. I get the gist of what you was trying to say. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to show y'all Exhibit A of why we have a lot of issues in our communities. Notice, if you can read in between the lines of this person's comments, clearly they haven't probably been through much. Meaning the victims, you know, the bodying party that most black folks tend to forget unless it happens to them directly. You know, the victims that never have a voice because we got a culture of not snitching, a culture of everybody wanting to free a criminal element. That's one of the worst products in our community. You know, that thing, that's what I got from this message, because this man was upset that basically what I was saying was we're not in a day, right? A day and age where we should be humanizing shit about any degeneracy, let alone gang culture. That's one of the most poisonous elements in our community, but yet this fool think it's okay that, hey, the brother was just trying to humanize it.
The girl got herself mixed up with these thugs, and there was 4 male blacks and 4 female blacks. They kidnapped this young girl. They beat this young girl. They stomped this young girl. They kicked her. They dragged her. They choked her. And they brutally raped this young girl at gunpoint. The young girl screamed for her life. She pleaded with them, but they showed no mercy. They showed no mercy. They tortured this young girl and they took her life. The sad part about it is I don't see anybody upset about it. There's no media coverage, except in Birmingham. They had it on the news, of course. There's no Black Lives Matter coming out marching, saying that they want justice and say her name. Wrong is wrong and right is right. You can't make wrong be right. But just because they're black, I guess so, yeah, this is making an excuse for them. But I don't agree with that.
I put clips in my videos to make a point. For those of you that make excuses for the BS, there is a growing number of us that could care less about your feelings and your concept of humanizing straight up trash, straight up garbage. There are those of us that don't want to hear the whys anymore, especially when you're not talking about solutions. We could give a damn about your whys. Yeah, because humanizing why, right? Let's just say you're a victim and you see someone trying to humanize something like gang culture, which would have been probably or possibly the byproduct of you losing a loved one. And you gotta like co-sign what somebody's saying about why there's gang culture. Let me tell you something, brother. Maybe you never picked up a book. Maybe you've never researched. I don't even know how old you are. But let me tell you this. In this community of ours, we spend so much time into the whys. But I think there's been enough times of the whys that now we must make action. There must be action, solutions. I don't have time, and I don't think it's necessary for any of y'all to humanize why we have drug dealers, why we have murderers, why we have gangsters in the communities, yet there's no solutions, yet there's no coming together. But my last point and conclusion is, I noticed something, man. You can be talking about everything positive that you do for your people. You can even come from a place where you're not trying to be like one of these brown noses out here that wants a cosign from Zaddy, white Zaddy, right? You know, you get a lot of people talk about their black community because they want to tap on the shoulder, you know, because it's an easy thing, right? It's a money-making machine to talk about your own people in a certain way, to degrade them and, you know, to look like you're not one of them to the white folks out there. That ain't me. But if you're someone like me who do try to push out certain things, right? So your people can have more accountability. And, you know, my channel is essentially for my people. It's not to get cosigns from white folks, but I do notice when you do try to speak out, you get backlash like this. People will even ignore your entire take and focus on one thing that bothers them. Folks, this is the cowards in our community, that you would worry about humanizing the cancer rather than getting rid of it. and spending so much time trying to understand why this cancer is here versus the solution of how to get rid of it, too late, it spreads over the body. Well, that's what's happening in our community. We're spending too much time trying to understand the degeneracy. Too much time. I mean, we've been talking about black on black crime and the black unity and being pro-black since the 60s, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't awakened your eyes, what community do we even have? Because I'm out here every day. Every day. The apathy is so powerful, meaning so many people really don't care. And you'll be surprised, it's not your average Joes that, you know, that participates in drug dealing, that probably lived the life they're ashamed of and now making a change. It's your everyday black folk out there that's doing their 9 to 5, that's just trying to make it through. A lot of them are the main ones that cheerlead the bullshit. I promise you, they'll be the first one to talk down on you just because you hope somebody sees your message and realize, damn, I too can take part of cleaning the mess. And if you don't care about this, guess what, brother or sister? The message ain't for you. You could easily keep it moving. But this brother took the time to tell me, basically knock me off my pivot of what I'm trying to do, because he was upset that I said, I don't think we should be humanizing or justifying any degeneracy. If you feel anything I say, all I'm asking y'all to do is politely, man, give me a like, give me a subscribe, or at the very least, take in what I'm saying and realize the problems that's happening in our community. We excuse the bullshit, and it doesn't come from the ugly corners that you would suspect. It's the people that probably have degrees. It's the people that loves to blend in within the community as if they're one of the positive elements. Listen, let me always remind y'all this. If you're cheerleading the bullshit or making excuses for it, you are in fact one of the #1 problems in our community. And with that, I land my plane, folks. This is Gravitating Away on Reset TV. And that big gig zig, whatever your profile name is, brother, you need a fucking reset. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I'm out.